All right. So ECW Hardcore TV Take Two.
Yeah, we're here in was it August of '94? Um, so the first episode we have here, it opens on Cactus Jack in the ring cutting a promo to Terry Funk. This is when he was doing that like anti-hardcore stuff.
Yeah.
That was really good. And he cuts a promo about family entertainment, and he pleads with Terry for a good, clean, scientific match. Uh, and Terry laughs at him for it. This was good stuff. They kind of did what um, WWF did, where they just showed like photos and clips of the show because it was from an event that had taken place probably shortly before this, so they
Yeah.
didn't actually show the match, um, but they show the aftermath. Uh, yeah, so Terry's laughing at Cactus. They uh, shake hands, and then Cactus grabs the mic again. He talks about how they're always teaming, but now they'll go toe to toe, and Cactus will kick his ass. So he kind of like almost early shades of kind of switching characters
Yeah. What
that
would
he would
become?
go on to make a lot more money doing later on in his
I
career.
know. I wonder if Dude Love, Mankind, and Cactus Jack all got separate salaries.
I loved the Royal Rumble where all three came down.
Yeah.
That was so fun. That was really clever.
Yep. I
And
completely
they
agree.
and they all got eliminated. But he got three shots at it.
Yep.
Um,
Your
so that
video is frozen.
my video is.
Yeah.
Hmm.
There we go.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that.
Oh no, it's nothing you did.
But yeah, that Royal Rumble where all of them came out was just that was brilliant.
Yeah, and some of the stuff he did, like his dude love, like teaming with Steve Austin, and like just Steve's facial expressions,
Yep.
because it was so ridiculous. Like,
I know
um,
it's weird because like in that situation, uh, we're trying to like identify with Steve on how he would react to this
right?
very absurd person with three different multiple personalities. He did a really Steve was good at that back then.
Yeah,
Like when
and
Kurt Angle and him had their little thing too.
oh yeah, he could do comedy very well. He had good facials, and like I always liked. Mick knew what he was, and he was a good sport about it. Where he teamed with like cooler, more over people, and he knew his role was like, I'm the misfit, I'm the outcast. You don't want me to be hanging out with you, like with The Rock and with Austin. And he played that up very well.
The Rock and Sock connection
Yeah,
might be the most brilliant things that came out of the Attitude Era altogether.
I love when he would like try to do The Rock's catchphrases, and Rock would cut him off and stuff. But I feel like ECW, like it was for a lot of guys, was where Mick started to really do some great character work that he would go on to make a lot of money perfecting later. Like Steve, the same thing. I know Steve Austin has said the promos that he cut when he was very briefly in ECW kind of were the seeds of Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Oh yeah, and it seems like that's where they were able to really kind of form their character.
Yeah,
Um,
and I think a lot of that had to do with Paul giving them the freedom to go out there, and Paul didn't have a team of writers handing Mick Foley or Steve Austin a script to
yep.
memorize. Uh, that didn't happen here.
No, and they did get exposure because ECW was not nothing back then. Um, but then they would both come from WCW, ECW, go to the WWF, and their new attitude personas would. I mean, they're Austin is probably the most significant guy to come out of the Attitude Era. But
Yeah.
Mick, I mean, just all the success and so many different things that he would do. It's amazing.
I look at Mick Foley in the Attitude Era as the star maker. Like
Mister in your house.
Mr. But he was the guy. Whether he was bringing up young guys and getting them over like Rock or Hunter, who were not at the tippy top yet. He would help get them over. But even guys like Shawn and The Undertaker, he would kind of invigorate them and bring things out of them that they hadn't been able to show before. So, like, Mick always, I think, brought out the best of everyone.
Yeah.
And I think that was, like, very unselfish of him. Like, again, I think he knew his role and he didn't shut his mouth, but he knew his role was to elevate everyone he worked with. And he was great at that.
Do you remember that one time in the ring where he asked The Rock a question, and then The Rock started to talk, and he's like, "It doesn't matter what you think," and like even The Rock started to smirk. He like ran around the ring with his hands up.
Yeah, it was like, yeah, like celebrating. Don't you ever do that again, I think. Something like that. Or
And
like when his glasses came, like he did a head turn and the Rock's glasses came off and Mick picked him up and handed it to him. The Rock thanks you for that.
uh,
But this, I mean, this
yeah,
anti-hardcore stuff was so brilliant because Cactus was so beloved by that audience. And it's like, you're going to be a heel. How does that guy be a heel for that audience? Take away everything that they like about him. And he's doing snapmares and headlock takeovers, and where it's like that's brilliant. That's the only thing he could have done to be a heel with that audience.
well, and it had also been a while since I've seen him do like a kind of a screeching bang bang, like
Yeah,
a really intense interview. Because again, later on, like we just talked about, um, there's going to be lots of silliness, but he was just such a personality. Like
and so versatile. Like he could be terrifying. He could make you laugh. He could get emotion out of you. Like the sit down interviews he did with JR on Raw, you felt for the guy. Like he was pouring his heart out and you felt for him and
yeah,
stuff. But then he could be scary. He could make you laugh. He could, I think he's one of the most versatile guys on the mic because
yeah.
he could do anything.
Well, and even looking at that specific those set of specific set of interviews with Jr. He was mankind in character doing that, and he talks
Yeah.
about like kids and everything. And I can't remember any other time where somebody would have such a complex and really worked character like that to be able to kind of flirt with the kayfabe line or breaking the fourth wall or whatever you want to call it, so we could get to know him outside of just like a promo.
Well, and that's why that worked because he approached it because I believe I forget if they wanted him to do it that interview. I think they might have wanted him to do it like you're just Mick Foley, just be yourself. And I think it was him who said like, I'm going to answer every question he asked me 100% honestly, but I'm doing it in character, and that's why it worked.
Yeah,
And that's where I believe that both Vince McMahon and the audience really kind of fell in love with him.
yeah, because he's he's able to kind of blur all those lines,
Yeah,
and get over in a way that not many other people would be able to do.
yeah. And I always think like when people talk about like the best talkers of all time, I get kind of bothered that he's never on that list because he should be.
Yeah,
Like they don't put him up there with Dusty and Flair and Rock and other people who deserve to be on that list. But I think he absolutely does deserve to be on that list of like greatest talkers of all time.
well, and I can remember when we first started to lay the plans for our show. I was watching. I can't remember what I was. I think it was Mind Games, and I started to think, Shawn Michaels, arguably the greatest performer ever, and I kind of had the thought, Mick Foley is also in that category for different reasons,
Right.
but I think that's a conversation that he should be involved in as well.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he's underrated as a wrestler, underrated as a storyteller, underrated as a promo. And like I said, like he came into the WWF, he brought Taker to who was a tippy top guy, brought new things out of him that no one had ever seen and kind of reinvigorated him. He reinvigorated Shawn and brought something new out of Shawn that no one had seen. That I know Shawn gives him a lot of credit for, like that he needed that at that point in his career.
Yeah,
Um, and then he also brought up guys like Rock and Hunter, who were rising stars at that time, and he got them to that position to be main event guys. I
yeah,
don't think either one of them would have had the impact they had the same way or as quickly or effectively had they not gone through Mick to get there.
and I think you're right. He could get people over in a way, and nobody else from that era could have. Like,
And he lost more often than he won, and he was fine. It's like he's bulletproof. Like
and
he
he
didn't
did
need
have,
to get his hand raised every night to be
yeah,
over.
yeah, and he had quite a few programs too. Taker, one of the greatest, feuds and all these really cool. I remember watching Buried Alive with you.
Yeah,
Like that was so different. That was cool. Um,
yeah.
and then you would have, you had Mind Games before that. His program with Triple H, that one match, I believe it was the Royal Rumble. They had that match for.
Was that his debut as Cactus, or because he wrestled as Mankind against Hunter, and then he also made his WWF debut as Cactus against Hunter too. Like they worked together a number of times,
Yeah,
and they were the King of the Ring finals when Hunter won King of the Ring.
yeah, there was one. It was in Madison Square Garden, so I think it was a Royal Rumble, but it was like they had thumbtacks, um,
Yeah,
everything, and Hunter was not known for those types of matches at
right.
all. Um, and even going back to the Rock and Sock connection, you know, Rock, this is your life.
That's one of my favorite segments of all time.
Yeah, and if it was
And
done by anybody, and it took up like half the show.
and knowing that The Rock didn't know what was coming made that it put it on a different level.
Yep.
And the fact that like Yerple the Clown, I love Yerple. She only made two appearances that I can remember. One is at the Rock This Is Your Life, and then the other one was when he goes to visit Vince in the hospital, which is
Yeah.
another one of my favorite segments of all time. Like he gives him he gives him balloons. And,
Yeah.
aren't they colorful? Like and he gives him like a heart shaped box of chocolates, and they're eating like he ate them all like it's an empty like like that. Those little details that Mick would do is so brilliant. I've got some female entertainment. She does a trick with a dog you won't believe. Like that's so like he's so good.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw flashes of that in his promo here. Like again, kind of the screeching. His
Yeah,
hair is wet over his face, and like the lighting seemed right. Like he really was captivating in
yeah,
character.
yeah, absolutely. Um, so they did not show the match itself. They showed the opening moments of the match, and they were building. This was the first time ever Cactus versus Terry Funk. So this was pre IWA King of the Death match. Um, I think about a year before that. But they don't show the match itself because I think they want you to buy the VHS at the time. That's what people did. I
Yeah,
certainly bought plenty of VHSs because I didn't have access to the ECW TV show at the time. So that's where I spent my party warehouse money
yeah,
buying shoot interviews and ECW tapes and stuff.
I know.
Um,
Weren't you and uh, Feinstein on like a first name basis after a while?
We didn't get there, but yeah, I gave him a lot of business for sure between the shoot interviews and the ECW library because that's the only way I could see these shows. So I would look at the catalogs and look at the match listings and be like, okay, like there's enough stuff on this show that's worth $25 or whatever it was for a videotape.
Yeah.
Um,
And that was when I first saw like Japanese death matches,
yeah,
and like you had a very impressive uh, collection from ECW to Japan. Um,
yeah. So yeah, they show the opening moments of the match. Then they cut to the intro, just kind of like generic metal music with some clips of the show. They cut to Joey, who talks about the match, and they show some still photos, which brought me back to Raws, like all the old Raws, where it's like the first Raw after a pay per view, and they would always show the still photos of what happened the night before on pay per view, because you could order the replay on Tuesdays.
yeah,
So
but
they wouldn't show footage; they would just show photos.
but they would let the audio play, and they would
Yep,
kind of
yeah, they
zoom.
play the audio and show still photos.
That was brilliant.
But yeah, so they're showing photos of the match. Public Enemy interferes in it. Cactus and Terry lay them out, and then the video cuts in. So it's photos up to this point. Then it cuts to the video. Terry requests a chair from the audience, and he gets it.
Yep.
This is the iconic scene where just everyone in the audience is throwing steel chairs from the crowd into the ring, and it's just raining chairs in the ECW arena. Um, Cactus and Terry bail out and just leave Public Enemy under an ever growing pile of chairs. The announcers, like on the PA system, pleading with them to stop. Um, Very cool and just very kind of indicative of like this is what ECW is about. Like we're different and very cool.
Yeah, and it was neat. Like, and then they went over the PA system, and it's like stop throwing chairs.
Yes.
And then like at the end, Public Enemy just kind of emerges from there, like in a
Yeah,
cartoon or something.
yeah, they crawl out from under the pile of chairs. Um, so yeah, then they have a post-match promo with Public Enemy. Um, it's kind of a lame promo against Terry Funk. Just kind of bad early '90s hip hop verbiage.
Yeah, yeah.
But
There's a lot of that in
it
here.
was the early '90s, so that was a cool way to talk back then. Um, I thought this went way too long, but they're setting up for an upcoming tag title match. The champs Public Enemy against Terry Funk and Cactus Jack. One thing I did notice is they're wrestling two guys. They only talked about Terry. They did not mention Cactus once in the promo. Everything was directed at Terry.
I did not notice that.
Well, it's funny because the next promo, Cactus noticed it.
Yeah,
I was not the only one who noticed. So then they cut the Terry and Cactus cut in the promo. Uh, and it's cool because Terry was just so reserved, because he can get wild when he needs to be. But this, he was super calm, relaxed, just very reserved. He kind of
yeah,
shits all over Public Enemy about like, you know, they were bragging about their homies from a bad neighborhood, and he was talking about like one of his
yeah,
family members who was in Vietnam.
yeah.
Like, okay, so that kills all Public Enemies bragging rights. Like,
Yep.
put a
Yeah,
stop to that right quick.
yeah, yeah. I thought that was a good response, and like you said, he was just so almost like deadpanish, like
Yeah,
kind of
just
kind
super
of
laid
response.
back,
Well,
and
and
he's just sort of like, let's just wrestle, dude, guys. Like, let's not brag about toughness. Let's just wrestle.
yeah,
It totally negated any momentum Public Enemy had. Like when he mentioned Vietnam, it's like, okay, Public Enemy's fucked. Like there's nowhere they can go from there.
and also like that was very uh, a departure even from like ECW standards for a promo. It was usually big guys, lots of yelling, real
Yeah,
intense. And I've seen Terry give those very kind of same promos, but you're right. This one was very calculated, almost like a Jake Roberts promo.
yeah, and that's one of the reasons, one of the many reasons why I love Jake. But Terry could do that, and Terry could always convey emotion so well in his promos. You know, like
Yeah.
we talked about the night the line was crossed in that post match interview, and he could just convey emotion so effectively.
Yes. Completely agreed.
And then Cactus jumps in, and he points out that in that promo, Public Enemy never once mentioned him. So he introduces himself. Uh, he says he's not from the streets. Uh, I spent my life snoozing away at the Ritz Carlton.
Yep.
And keep in mind, this was after a match where Terry Funk and Cactus were wrestling each other and beating the shit out of each other, and now they're partners. And this is right after the match. He talks about the busted up eye that Terry gave him, and he's like, you know, it's nice work indeed. And Terry's like, oh, thank you, Cactus. Like they're so
Yeah, like
laid
having a
back
tea party.
and nonchalant about this. Nice work, Terry. Oh, thank you, Cactus. Like it's just like, um, and then Cactus says the streets will be homeless when they're done with them, which
Yeah.
was not his best line, but
Well, and
they
I
both
don't know.
totally buried Public Enemy though. With this,
Yeah,
both of them did.
yeah, that's the thing. Like I thought, I don't remember a whole lot of Public Enemy, and what I do, I'm not really impressed with. But um, this little promo right there was actually, you know, pretty good.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh yeah.
and then yeah, Mick and Terry just dismantled it and just pooped all over it. It was well done on their part.
Yeah. So then they cut to an ad for the next show, which is what we're going to cover. They advertise the tag title match, Public Enemy versus Cactus and Funk, and then they go through the competitors that are going to be competing in the NWA title tournament.
Yes.
Uh, Shane Douglas, Chris Benoit, 911, Dean Malenko, Taz, Nishimura, and Scorpio. So that's not a bad group of guys in that
I'm not
tournament.
familiar with Nishimura. When I saw
I'm
that, I
I'm
figured
not
that
either.
okay.
Um, let's see. And then they cut to Joey. He's explaining the ECW was chosen to host the NWA title tournament in 2 weeks. Um, and then they show a video package on Scorpio. They show clips of a match between him and Sabu. And I always loved the chemistry those guys had.
Yeah.
They worked really well together. And I was just like, as they're showing clips from Scorpio and Sabu, how fucking smooth was Scorpio and how ahead of his time was Scorpio.
And especially for someone his size, he's not a
Yeah,
luchador. He's not a Shinsuke Nakamura. That's a
yeah, he's a
240-pound dude.
thick dude that's doing stuff that you expect to see from like Jushin Liger, you know, and he does it so like everything is just so smooth with him, and I always liked him. I felt bad that he never got a better run in WWF. You know,
Yeah,
they made him Flash Funk and turned him into a job guy, but I always thought he deserved more.
yeah,
And
he was
very
phenomenal.
like criminally underrated, especially for his time. Like he
Well,
could work today.
yeah,
Like if you took 1994 Scorpio, he could get over today with what he's doing.
well, and how unusual was his style, and how rare were
Right?
things like that in uh, early to mid '90s WWF.
Yeah. Um, and then so yeah, they show clips of Scorpio, and then they Scorpio cuts a promo about the tournament. Um, so they're definitely kind of pushing Scorpio as like he's one of the favorites in this tournament.
Yeah, and I noticed too that um, he because I also watched the Hardcore TV on the 23rd too. He was cutting like these kind of cool hip. promos, kind of like off the cuff. And
Yeah,
by today's standards, I think they'd be a little cringy, but for the time, they were great. But it's like I started to wonder if they needed him to cut those promos so that ECW could stay cool and hip at this time.
yeah, like with him, and again, you have to think about this was 1994, so what's cool changes. But with him, it sounded natural, like hokey by today's standards, but for 1994 standards, it was natural, it was cool. Unlike the Public Enemy, it's like, okay, you're two white boys that, you know,
Yeah,
it sounds forced. It's um, but yeah, so Scorpio was definitely a featured guy in this tournament, like one of the favorites in the tournament, and I like the promo. They did a good job kind of building him as
yeah.
one of the favorites. Uh, Up next, and I was looking forward to this. Once I saw this was on the show, I'm like, this will be interesting. We have the television champion, Mikey Whipwreck, versus the sexiest man on earth, Jason. It
Yep.
was funny because the last ECW show we covered, we talked about Jason and how he was in ECW for a long time, and we were kind of like, did he wrestle? Did he? And once I saw this match, I was like, yes, not only did he wrestle, he was TV champ. I remember um, and so man, that crowd loved Mikey.
Yeah. And man, Mikey was all of 16 years old too.
Yeah, I mean, I believe they said he was 18 at this time or
Yeah.
19, something like that. And I know he was like a ring crew kid that they let him get in the ring and kind of bump around. Um, and he got over, and he got pretty good. He
Yeah.
he kind of wasn't here, but he got better.
Yeah.
Um, but man, was he over? Because I mean, he almost had that Spike Dudley underdog
Underdog. Yeah. Yep.
type thing.
I was
Um,
just thinking that.
yeah, and I noticed in the crowd, someone had a Mikey's luck has just run out sign. um, I mean, it was just kind of basic wrestling. It was done competently. It wasn't anything groundbreaking.
Yeah.
Um, but the crowd was so behind Mikey that it felt important, you
Yeah.
know? Um,
Yeah. It was like the Daniel Bryan of ECW at the time.
yeah. um, I get what you mean. I mean, from a wrestling point of view, not quite, but
Oh no, no, yeah,
as far
no,
as they,
yeah,
the crowd being behind him, for sure. Yeah.
yeah, and just their kind of spot um, on the roster, especially trying to go for like a championship. Um, I know ECW was fine putting over smaller guys, but this seemed just like you were saying that the crowd was really into him. So, um,
Yeah. And that was, I think, in ECW more than anywhere else, what the crowd thought of you mattered. I
yeah,
mean, it matters anywhere, and a crowd can get someone over that maybe wasn't supposed to be over. But I think more than anyone, any other organization, what the ECW fans thought of you, they could make or break you.
yeah,
And they were behind Mikey here.
they sure were. Who did he? Yeah, he had won the TV title from the Pitbull. And so I know uh, the Pitbulls were with Jason at
Yeah,
this.
yeah. So I guess this is a natural kind of continuation of that storyline. And Jason was an effective heel.
Yeah.
Although I did notice someone in this crowd had a sign that said, Jason, a TV champ we can respect.
Yes. Yep. I saw that.
um, Jason at one point does like a face first suplex onto the table outside the ring to Mikey and then does a leg drop off the apron through the said table. That was pretty nice.
Yeah.
At one point, Joey had a great line that neither of these men has an enviable win loss record.
Yeah. Yeah. He was talking about how Mikey had one win, and Jason been wrestling for 8 years, and I don't know, it was interesting.
Yeah. Well, Joey was good at those little one-liners.
Yeah,
Um, did you notice at one point Jason kicks the fuck out of Mikey right in the head? Like a really stiff kick right in the head. I don't know if you caught that.
I don't
And I was like,
remember.
oh, that's going to leave a mark.
Hmm.
And then they do like a series of quick pinfall attempts on Jason, just like any type of like a roll up and schoolboys and like any type of quick
Yeah,
pinfall
like
attempt.
there's like 5 or 6 reverse small packages almost going around in a
Yeah,
circle. It was it wasn't really smooth, but it was cool.
yeah, and given Mikey's experience at this point, it was admirable, and it played to his character where he's fighting from underneath. He's the underdog. He's desperate. He doesn't have a lot of offense. He's going for whatever he can, so it fit the character.
Yeah,
Um, at one point, Mikey's playing possum, and yeah, they do the small package battle, is how I phrased it, where they just keep reversing the small package.
yep,
Mikey accidentally hits a ref with the chair. Then he clocks Jason. Neither of the chair shots looked good. Um, he looks confused, rolls over Jason, gets the pin. Uh, and I wrote down it looked like Jason pinned himself. Like it looked like he kind of forgot where he was supposed to be and what he was supposed to do.
yeah,
It looked almost like when Austin got beaten by Owen for the IC title, and Owen did that really, or Austin did that really bad roll up on
yeah,
Owen, and it's like, okay, Owen just pinned himself. It
yeah.
kind of looked like that. It was kind of sloppy. Um,
Well, and they had a ref bump as well.
yeah.
So like this is turning into I believe as Tony would say a dusty finish.
um, so yeah, he pins Jason. Then the pit bulls come down, attack Mikey, put Jason on Mikey, and apparently the ref was too out of it to remember that he already counted Jason down for three.
Yeah,
Is what I gathered. It wasn't the best finish because it was the same ref. It wasn't a different ref. Like the same ref
yeah,
counted the pinfall twice. Um, so Jason's the new champ.
yeah,
Taz and Snuka come out, attack the pit bulls. Taz hits some nice suplexes. Snuka does the superfly, and then so they do a double pin to win a match. I didn't even know was a match.
yeah. And it was all of maybe 40 seconds.
Yeah. Um, ECW did a lot of like the ending of one thing is the beginning of something else
Yeah,
immediately. Like the end of one thing immediately transitions to the start of something else. ECW did that a lot. And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. So
yeah,
between the weird finish and then the fact that a second match happened that I didn't even know was happening, it was weird.
yeah. And it was weird because they're like the cadence of their shows is quite a bit different. Now the matches don't take up the majority of the show. There's lots of drama and backstage stuff, and so to string those together like that was interesting.
Yeah. Well, I know their TV show was different than like if you got any of their home videos, it was more like a pay per view style, you know,
Yeah,
more match heavy and less promo heavy than their TV show was.
yeah. Do you remember when you had first seen ECW?
Like the first show I
Yeah,
watched.
like when I was recording with Tony yesterday and talking about it, I remember that up at my aunt's house in Westfield, she had like the very first iteration of like satellite TV, and so there's like 1,500 channels, all of nothing. And I had accidentally watched um, an ECW show one night, and then later on, you had seen it, and we started watching it together. And I remember that That was when I first um, had seen it. But I was curious if you remember, like when you first saw or watched ECW.
I think it was a home video that I ordered. I don't know the specific one, but I think, because I used to get a lot of those wrestling magazines,
Yeah,
and I would get the WWF ones, but I would get the ones, PWI and the ones that covered everything. And I would just see people like Sabu and Raven and people like that and read about them. And I was like, I've got to see that. Like, it's so intriguing. And then, like, being a fan of people like, Mankind, and it's like, oh, he was there as Cactus Jack. I want to see that. Or, like the Sandman, like even just the pictures of these guys, it's like, what is this place? It looks so intriguing. And so I think I just got like a random ECW video. I think I
yeah.
just ordered a VHS
Um,
and just a
w-
random one. I don't remember specifically what it was, but I think that's the first time I saw it.
had we already gotten into like the Monday Night Wars? Like, did you recognize like Jericho or Eddie or?
Uh, I don't recall. I just remember seeing guys like Sandman, Raven, and Sabu, and because visually those guys, even just from a picture, it's like I want to see what those guys are all about.
Yeah,
Like especially like Sabu with the
yeah.
scars and you know. So
He
it
had a
was
really cool look.
oh yeah. So it was those magazines that got me intrigued, and then I think I would guess maybe 96, 97 is when I kind of started like ordering the videos, probably 97 at some point. I think I just ordered like a random video or two and just fell in love with it and kept
Okay.
ordering more because I couldn't get access to the show. The only time I saw the TV show, I was in Florida at one point, probably on a summer vacation or something, and they had it there, so I got to watch it there. But otherwise, it was, I would just order the home videos, and I think that was around the time they had already started doing pay-per-views, or they would shortly thereafter. And so I remember I would always, shell out money for the pay-per-views,
Yeah,
and those were always worth it. I
yeah,
never felt disappointed
yeah,
for
yeah.
paying money for an ECW pay-per-view.
Yeah, yeah. I was just trying to remember, like the early on where um, we had kind of gotten into ECW and um, kind of introduced to it.
Yeah, it was those magazines that drew me in because the guys just looked so different, and it was worth spending my money to see what they were all about.
Yep. All
uh,
right. So the tag match wraps up.
Yeah, and then Joey interviews Jason, and I love Joey whether he was on commentary calling a match, or Jason was at ringside or wrestling, or in interviews. Joey always hated Jason. Like he didn't try to like it was just fun. He had fun with shitting all over Jason.
Yeah.
Uh, jo- Joey's announcing that Jason's the new TV champ, and I wrote down Joey sounds like his mother just died. The way he's announcing that news.
Yeah, he was definitely a little biased.
He begrudgingly refers to Jason as the sexiest man on earth. Like he just calls Jason out on the weird finish. Uh,
Yeah.
Jason claims that it was easy. Someone comes out and pours champagne on his head. Joey calls him out saying that was cheap champagne
Yep.
and that dude was on his payroll.
Yeah. And I love Jason's retort. It's like, this is the best champagne.
Yeah, it's like Don Perignon or something like that.
Yeah.
Like Joey's like he's on your payroll. Like,
Yeah.
um,
I thought Joey definitely was coming off a little better in that interview than Jason was. But like he wasn't trying to cover for it either.
no, he called him on his shit. He was like he didn't try to hide his disdain. for
Yeah.
Jason. It was a well done promo, and then
Yeah.
Jason's talking about how he's so beautiful. I like that he just walks off singing "My Sharia Moore," and then Joey, this is a nice cherry on top, pleads with the entire locker room to run Jason off, and he offers to pay people money.
Yep.
He's like, "I will pay money out of my own pocket." That was just a nice cherry on top of a good segment.
Yeah. Yeah. That stuck out to me as well. It was pretty good. I don't remember there being like a long-standing feud between them, but it was very entertaining. Listening to Joey kind of chop down Jason.
Well, that would carry on like when Jason managed like Just Incredible later on down the line, and he wasn't wrestling, but he was at ringside, and Joey would still just shit all over him whenever he came out, like with Just Incredible and that whole crew. So it was a long running thing. We have a Paul promo next, and he's apparently pissed that there's no real men left to carry wrestling.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't totally get this. Maybe just because we jumped in, maybe I don't
Um.
have the proper context.
Well, and I also am unsure at this point what role Paulie actually had in the company because we're about to go to the NWA tournament, but also what his on-screen role was
I
as
believe
well.
his on screen role was just as 911's manager. I could be
Okay.
wrong about that, but I know he did manage 911, and I think he was just like booking at this time.
Okay.
Because Todd was still the guy, but I think Paul was kind of doing all the booking. And then he
Okay.
managed 911 on screen. I believe. I could be mistaken. But they do a Shane Douglas does a promo. He's going to prove he's the best. He shits all over Hulk and Dusty and Flair. And then he calls out Flair. I guess you'd think he was working with Flair at the NWA tournament, but
Yeah.
uh,
I there was a lot of things that stuck out to me with Shane's there. And there was one line in particular, and when I heard it, I'm like, I know Tim heard this as well. And he's trying to be a knockoff Kurt Hennig. I am what I say I am.
oh yeah, okay,
I am the franchise. And I'm like,
yeah.
no, 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 no. Incorrect, sir. Incorrect. um, but it was a anyway, he was always good. Like I know we've both said that he was competent. And I think that maybe he was a little bit more than competent, not a whole lot, but especially for the era, I thought he was better on the mic than a lot of people around. But just like those couple lines, I am what
Yeah.
I say I am. Yeah,
Well, Shane, he always I kind of put him in the same category as like a Jeff Jarrett. Solid worker, looked good. He was in shape.
yeah,
He could talk. I think if he couldn't talk, he wouldn't be like his, especially in ECW, because his matches never, especially in ECW, never really stood out to me as anything special, considering who else was there.
yeah,
But I think his promos are what got him over in that environment. But I mean, he was a solid worker. He never really blew me away, but for some reason, just very highly regarded. And I kind of put him in that Jeff Jarrett category. There's like Jeff Jarrett, solid worker, always in
yeah,
shape, looked good. He could wrestle, but he wasn't. I never saw him as the guy,
yeah. And
and I
I,
never
I
saw Shane as the guy.
yeah, Jarrett, and then going on to I don't know, like his reign of terror in TNA. Maybe we can do like uh, a shoot on that one day. But
I did
yeah,
enjoy his Broken Skull sessions
I haven't
recently.
seen that yet. Is it good?
It's good, yeah. I mean, I watch all of them, but yeah, that one was good.
Um, yeah, Shane here again, a great promo, but again, I just kind of fixate on things, and so when I heard that, I am what I say, and he does have like a similar look to Kurt, like physique
Yeah,
wise, and like his voice. Is
yeah.
is I don't know. Like I said, after I heard that, that was just what I kind of hyper focused on, and
But I mean, even though everything I just said, he's kind of like a public enemy where I think he's a little overrated, but he was very important to the company at this time.
yeah,
And I need to acknowledge that and give him credit for that.
I completely agree with the Public Enemy reference right there.
Yeah.
Especially well, and I guess Douglas is the same way. Outside of ECW, they had very little to no success or got fired. um, I know ECW, or not ECW. I know Public Enemy had some success in WCW, but they weren't there very
Yeah.
long. I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, they had some success, but Shane, I know Shane had a good run in WCW prior to all this. Like, I know he had some really solid matches with like Stunning Steve, and he was and Ricky Steamboat, kind of early 90s WCW. I know he had a very good run, at least wrestling wise. I haven't seen a ton of that stuff, but I know he had feuds with like Austin and Steamboat, and he had a tag team with Johnny Ace, and um, so he did have some success in early '90s WCW.
Gotcha. I actually didn't know that. And
Yeah,
then he was Dean Douglas.
yeah, that's.
I mean, you're
I
a
don't think anyone could have made that work.
no,
I'm not going to blame Shane for that. That was a lame gimmick at a lame time, and
yeah, but
but
just the idea of like a new age knockoff genius. How can anybody think that this is going to work?
yeah, it was you know
Anyway, yeah, I know.
bad gimmick.
Yeah, all right.
And think everything could have been different if he had come in as just Shane Douglas, you know, because he was good enough in the ring that he would have had more success
Yeah,
without that Dean Douglas gimmick.
yeah. But he did, for everything that was, he did kind of throw himself into the character. I think.
Yeah, I mean, you got
He
to
had,
make the most of it.
yeah, he had like decent promos. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, his promos are probably his greatest strength to me.
Yeah,
Wherever he is, I think his promos are, you know. But that's how we wrap up the first show. Um, the next episode. Well, I skipped an episode. You said you watched all three.
yeah. I watched the 16th and the 23rd because I got mistaken. You put down the 30th. That is my bad.
Oh, so you didn't watch the? Wait a
No,
second. Okay.
I have watched. Well, I have seen the Singapore Cane match. Um,
Okay.
and I did watch that YouTube video of Shane and Too Cold that I had
Okay.
sent you. But yeah, um, I watched August 23rd. They had well, this is building up to the NWA title tournament. I remember there was an interview. They had 911 and Mr. Hughes in the ring, and it was a cute little big man battle for a couple minutes. And then afterwards, Shane and um, no, they had Paulie and 911, and they were talking about it. Then they had Shane and Mr. Hughes, and Shane was talking about how he heard through like the grapevine or something at ECW that 911 might be in the NWA tag title or not tag in the NWA title tournament.
Mhm.
And so they had Jimmy Snuka and the Tasmaniac beat the Pit Bulls. I think it was even faster than that run-in match from the week before.
Okay.
But
Visually, Tasmaniac and Snuka looked good together. They looked like a tag team.
yes,
I mean, I hated Taz with that look, but him paired with Snuka visually, it's like, okay, yeah, I buy them as a team.
Yeah, and I don't even know if I've heard. I don't know if he did promos as the Tasmaniac.
I don't recall any,
Yeah.
really. I
Mm.
think it was kind of once he cut his hair and became the human suplex machine where he kind of really came into his own.
Yeah.
Um,
But yeah, so Shane was talking about the brackets for the tournament, and kind of teasing maybe seeing Mr. Hughes and 911 again, at the
okay.
tournament.
911 really fucked up the best gig on the planet by wanting to wrestle.
Yeah, he was Sabu's handler.
Well, like the whole gimmick was like, if there's a bad match, you come out, you choke slam someone. If someone fucks up, you walk out and choke slam them. You don't have to wrestle. You don't have to take bumps. You go out, you choke slam people when something bad happens.
Yeah, he was
That's the
almost.
best. That's the best gimmick. Like you don't have to take bumps. You don't have to wrestle. Like,
Yeah, he was like a defender in hockey or something.
yeah,
Like when somebody needed to go out there to put someone else in their place, that was.
and the audience knew when, like, if someone like slipped on the top rope and fell, it's like, all right, someone's calling 911, and then they get choke slammed, and everyone be happy. Like,
Yep.
and he's fucked it up by wanting to wrestle. So anything else noteworthy on the show? Because you watched the one in the middle and I didn't. So
Yeah. Well, like I said, the tag match was it was just over so quick. Like I really think it was faster than the one previously, and then 911 and Hughes really wasn't all that great. It was only for a couple minutes as well, and so I was just um, listening to. I know Paul cut a promo. He's always phenomenal.
mm,
And then I just remember like so during the match, Shane was trying to like interfere, and Hughes had lost. He was out of the ring, and so 911 got Shane in the ring, and Shane is doing that little chicken shit heel thing um, in the corner, and that came off really well. But I think the only thing really of note, especially building up to the NWA title tournament, was Shane and Hughes just talking about the brackets. That 911 is going to be in the tournament, and they were teasing that Hughes and him might wrestle each other again there.
oh,
That
okay.
was that was really about it.
Oh, okay. So you did not watch the.
I did not.
Okay. Well, it starts off, and this caught my attention real quick. Um, the first match is Doink versus 911.
Yeah. Uh, yeah.
You can imagine how over Doink was with an ECW audience. Um, he gets chokeslammed 3 times and pinned. He gets chokeslammed. The crowd calls for another one, and so he gives them another one, and they call for a third. He gets a third, then he gets pinned. Uh, Cuts to the intro.
Yeah. Oh, so that was the opening.
That was before even the opening intro to the show. It opened up on Doink getting chokeslammed 3 times and pinned. Um, and so yeah, it's got the intro, and then um, cuts to Joey Styles, who's struggling to make a proper introduction. Like he's like, like welcome to Eastern, welcome to NW. You'll find out. Like he's like, um, then they cut to a video package um, showing the Sandman kind of going on a reign of terror with the cane, back when that was an original thing.
Yeah.
Um, just showing him caning the shit out of people, and um, this is kind of the first evolution of the Sandman post, surfer character in the wetsuit. He's got the cane, he's got the cigarette. Um, Tommy comes out, beats up the Sandman, kisses Woman, because Woman was Sandman's manager here, which I
Yep.
like that combination. So he kisses Woman, Sandman canes him. Um, they show Tommy caning the Sandman at Hardcore Heaven. He kisses Woman again. Woman tells Sandman she wants Tommy to get Tommy broken, and Sandman says he will give her what she wants. So then we have the Sandman, managed by Woman, versus Tommy Dreamer in a Singapore cane match. Um, Dreamer does a really weird spinning heel kick in the corner, like Sandman's in the corner by the turnbuckle, and Dreamer runs and does like a spinning heel kick, and he like uses his momentum to take it over the ropes onto the apron.
Like a
Um,
Savio kick.
yeah, kind of like Savio, and it's like Tommy, like he never botched anything, but nothing he did looked smooth. Like everything he did looked like it took effort, and it was passable, but it wasn't smooth. That's how I describe like 100% of Tommy Dreamer's offense.
That's true. I mean, I think his feud with Raven was the most noteworthy
Yeah,
thing for him.
because it went on for like a fucking decade.
Yeah.
um, yeah, I wrote down a note like everything Tommy does looks like he almost botched it, but not quite. And then there was a graphic that came up because they took, if you were watching the TV show, it would have been a commercial break. And I just loved, there was a graphic before it went to commercial where it says, quote, the loser of this match gets caned when we return. And it went to what would have been a commercial break. And I'm like, you're not watching Raw.
Nope.
Right now. Um, the loser of this match gets caned when we return. There's like a little graphic at the bottom of the screen. um, Dreamer hooks Sandman for a DDT. Sandman knocks down the ref. Um, Woman comes in with a cane. Uh, Dreamer goes to throw a punch at the Sandman. Sandman ducks, and the way they did it was really nice. Like he goes to punch Sandman, and Woman's behind Sandman. Dreamer misses the punch, and his momentum kind of brings him into Woman. Sandman ducks the punch, and Woman canes the shit out of him.
Nice.
So it was a nice spot. Everyone, the timing was really good. It looked really smooth. So Dreamer misses the punch, gets caned by Woman. Sandman hooks him for a DDT and gets the win. Um, so now Dreamer's got to get his 10 lashes, as
Yeah.
is stipulated by the rules. Um, the locker room comes out in protest. Todd Gordon comes out and offers to restart the match, and Dreamer declines. He says he'll take the cane, he'll take what's coming to him. Woman gets on the mic, and she was really good here, and says she'll stop it. Tommy doesn't have to get caned if he bows down to her and kisses her feet. To which Dreamer replies, "You get down on your knees and kiss my ass."
Well done.
So then Dreamer's kind of draped over the top rope with his back exposed. Sandman's laying into him with the cane. Um, at one point, he looks over and says, "You ain't shit" to the Sandman. Joey's really putting this over as like just barbaric. Um, Sandman's really laying in the shots, and you can see just welts on his back, blood dripping from his back, on the back of his arms. Um, so he's laying it in. And of course, after every cane shot, Woman keeps offering, I can make it stop, Tommy. Just, he does the, thank you, sir, may I have another. And um, I did notice, like, as this progressed, the audience got real quiet. Like, they shut up and just were like, oh, like,
Like they weren't sure how to
like it
take it.
was really brutal. And they were just like, they went from like, you know, we're an ECW crowd, we want to get our shit in, to like, oh, like it just, there was like a hush over the crowd as this progressed, which I thought was cool.
Yeah. Like, and
Um,
I remember Paul, like we had talked about when the Sandman was blind, and it's like the the audience, it's like, yeah, we're bloodthirsty and everything like this, but and I think that was back when either a promoter like Paul or the guys could, you know, get the fans to go, all right, I know this shit's fake, but that's got to be real. You know,
Yeah,
was this one of those moments?
yeah. It was just sort of like, because again, the Kane thing was new, so it was seen as very barbaric. And you could see Tommy's back was fucked up, like, um, and so yeah, like Tommy just woman keeps giving him an out in between each shot. Tommy's being the hero, and he's going to take what's coming to him. Um, and it gets to one thing I noticed. I like that Sandman was just smoking the whole time. Like he was just sitting there smoking, and then he just put the cigarette in his mouth, hit a cane shot, and then he'd go back to smoking while woman was doing her thing. So he just had a cigarette the whole time, which I just like, just a nice little. Um, and then the 10th shot,
It was a different time back then.
yeah. So then he'd taken 9 shots. He's got 10 coming to him, and Sandman gets like a running start on the last one and just lays it in. Um, Dreamer gets up and he's like, "That's all you got. I'm still standing." Getting in Sandman's face, and it's very, baby face. He's taking it, and this was, I think, where Tommy became a made man was on this night.
Yeah,
Because he was trying to do like early '90s indie wrestler baby face, pretty boy, and it was not getting over with that crowd. Like we talked about the night the line was crossed with Snuka, where he took all the Superflies, and it wasn't really working. And this is, you know, I think he earned the crowd's respect here,
yeah.
and this is where Tommy they finally accepted him, I think. And um,
He's anointed as the innovator of violence.
yeah, he's like, that's all you got. I'm still standing, and it's emotional, and he's bleeding, and Sandman cheap shots him, gets in an 11th shot. The crowd, uh, real loud Tommy chant rings out. Um, and I made a note, like the Sandman is kind of like mid evolution, like he's already started to get to where he's going,
Hmm.
and this is the beginning of Tommy's evolution to me. Um, and I just made it like this is 2 ECW icons in a very important moment here,
Yeah.
and just very well done.
Well, and even seeing Sandman in his wetsuit and
Yeah,
Dreamer in his Chippendale suspenders,
yeah,
I, I can't remember if I'd ever gone back and watched their work from that time. So it's really cool to see, like you said, their evolution into what they're going to be known for the remainder of their careers.
yeah, yeah. It was definitely an important moment.
Yeah.
From there, they cut to highlights of the tournament. They show Douglas, Shane's, and Scorpio's journey to get to the finals. Douglas beat Taz. Scorpio beat Benoit. That would have been a hell of a match. Douglas beats Malenko. That would have been good.
Yeah.
They show Scorpio beats 911 by countout um, after interference by Doink. Well, okay, so Doink and Matt Bourne interfere.
Oh, so
Uh,
somebody else was dressed as Doink?
Shane Douglas was dressed as Doink, and he takes the wig off and shit. And it's so Matt Bourne is there as Matt Bourne, and Shane Douglas is there as Doink, and they interfere. 911 gets counted out. Um, I think that's probably the only count out loss in ECW history. But Scorpio wins. So it was cool. They just showed highlights of how Douglas and Scorpio got to the finals. I really would like to see Scorpio and Benoit. That'd be a hell of a match. Um,
Yes.
and then so they go to the finals, Scorpio versus Benoit. Um, It feels just like very old school to me. You said you watched this match in its entirety?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, they kind of do like that, like feeling each other out, kind of very slow, feeling each other out, very technical. Um, Douglas slaps Scorpio. Scorpio slaps him back. Um,
I remember that. Um, this was also the match I kind of realized, like looking at that, like Scorpio looks bigger than Shane,
yeah,
and so like just the athleticism, um, and how really over the last couple ECW TV shows, they had Scorpio on there, cutting these promos and everything, and so um, I guess back then that would be kind of maybe like a way of foreshadowing,
yeah,
like at the finals at least.
yeah, because they definitely highlighted Shane and Scorpio, whether it was like a video package or promos or well, both. They both of them got promos and video packages leading up to this. So
Yeah,
they were definitely building up like these are guys to watch out for. Um, but yeah, like Scorpio, like I don't know how tall he is. I know he's not a giant, but he's not a little guy, and he's thick and he's got muscle. And for him to be doing the shit he was doing and doing it so smoothly and doing it in this era is just like
it was ahead of its
he
time.
was a really impressive guy.
Yeah,
Like yeah, I made another note again. Just Scorpio's offense all looks super smooth, really pretty. There was like a kind of a gracefulness to the way he moved and stuff. Um, Scorpio misses a really nice looking moonsault. Um, Shane hits a belly to belly for the win. Um,
I did notice too that both by the time this match had come along, both guys looked pretty gassed.
yeah, and again, like we've covered a couple King of the Rings recently and talked about that tournament style where you're wrestling multiple matches and in one night, and we Scorpio went through Benoit and 911 to get to Shane.
Yeah,
Douglas went through Taz and Malenko to get to Scorpio.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I
Like
can't
I don't.
imagine those were easy matches where they took it easy.
Yeah, yeah, and like I didn't mean that to be like their work rate was like subpar or anything, but you could just tell that they were tired. Like I remember
Yeah.
when Scorpio did the top rope drop kick, um, and he landed, and Douglas just kind of rolled out of the ring, and Scorpio took like a second to kind of collect themselves, and I'm like, these guys are, I don't know, it
But
was
I
a
think I think too, like considering like the NWA, this is for the NWA title, kind of resurrecting that, and it's like these are two good guys to represent kind of what the NWA stood for.
yeah,
I think these are two good choices.
yeah,
Um,
very solid wrestlers, both of them with very different styles.
yeah,
Um,
and I think even Joey says at one point like either one of these guys would make a great NWA champion. I think he said that on commentary at one point during the match.
yeah,
Um,
he's right.
so yeah, Douglas beats Scorpio with a belly to belly suplex. Shane is handed the belt. He's in the corner. He's crying. Scorpio grabs the mic, says, you were a better man than me tonight, but I'll be on your ass."
Yeah,
I did know Scorpio stayed on the apron during this. Douglas puts over Scorpio. He says he won't be a champion that hides. I thought that was a cool line. He's like, I'm not going to be a champion that hides. And then, as God and my Father in heaven as witness, this is it. He lists, prominent NWA champions. Kind of hypes up the lineage of the title.
mm.
And I just like that. You can tell this is a big deal for him.
Well, and I've also heard that he was very hesitant on or unsure if he really was going to go through with it. And so this time when he was cutting that promo, he was still deciding if this is really what he wanted to do.
Yeah, in this, I kind of compared it to like Sean with the Montreal Screwjob. Like, because I'm guessing this was not Shane's idea. This was direction, like Shane was told to do this, like Sean was told to screw Brett.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, I've heard Sean say, like, you can try to take the heat all you want. I'm the guy who's pulling the trigger. And
Yep.
Sean's the guy that has to share a locker room with all these people that already don't like him. And so I feel like there was kind of like Shane's the guy that has to pull the trigger. He's going to get a shitload of heat for this.
And he has to walk back through the
Right.
curtain after this.
Right. So you could tell this is a big moment for Shane. Like, I really like that, like, as God and my Father in heaven is witness. And then, like, right before, like, he's listing all the great champions. And then, this is it tonight, Dad. Like, he looks up and it's like, and then he looks at the belt, God, it's so beautiful. And just, he did this so well. And then he throws the belt down. They can all kiss my
Kiss my
ass.
ass.
He doesn't want to be handed a title from an organization that died 7 years ago. He's going to ignite the new flame in the sport of professional wrestling. I like the emphasis on sport. Um,
Not an entertainer.
yep, and I like that emphasis on that. Um, and then he grabs the ECW title, and he said ECW is going to change wrestling. It's a new era. We get an ECW chant here. Um, Scorpio cuts a promo that no one can hear a word of. I don't even know if the mic was even on or if the crowd just drowned it out with the ECW chants, but I didn't hear a word Scorpio said. Um, him and Shane shake hands. There's a Flair is dead chant rings out. Um, thoughts on this promo? I mean, this is historic.
I know. Well, and the I really had not thought of the Montreal screw job in comparison to this, but that's a very good comparison. Yeah, Scorpio kind of shakes his hand and leaves, and the crowd, I don't know, they didn't even. I don't know what I was expecting, but they didn't seem like surprised. Like you said, they started chanting, ECW, and they kind of went along for that ride. And so I have to wonder if if anybody in the crowd at least knew that this was a shoot and not part of not part of the show.
Right? Yeah. I'm not sure. And that's like, how would the audience know that this was going to be the rebranding of the entire company? Like, they couldn't know that from this promo. Um,
And well, and like I can't remember the name of the dude. Corey Lusso,
oh, Dennis Corluzzo. Yeah, I have.
Carluso. Yeah.
Yeah.
His little interview, he did not seem happy with
No, he did not. Yeah,
everything.
they
But
just
then,
listed him on the show as just an NWA board member.
yeah,
Um,
and then
yeah,
Todd
he's
Gordon has a little promo as well.
yeah. So yeah, so after that, yeah, they cut the Dennis Corluzzo, who's NWA board member. He says this is disgraceful. He said ECW is under NWA jurisdiction, and he says Shane is champ whether he likes it or not. So that makes the NWA title seem super important. You don't want it, we're going to make you take it. Like,
Yeah,
that really makes the title look good.
yeah.
Um, and then he
I
says he wants him stripped of both titles
yeah,
for his
and
behavior.
what's that?
Oh no, he's just yeah. He said because of his behavior, he wants Shane stripped of both the titles.
Well, and this was something that Tony and I had discussed too. I know researching for this that Todd Gordon legally dissolved Eastern Championship Wrestling as, I believe, an LLC. So going forward, the Extreme Championship Wrestling title, he could do whatever he wanted with.
Right.
Um, but the NWA title, obviously, they don't not only does Shane not get to keep that or wear that, but I'm sure there'd be all kinds of cease and desist stuff had he tried to
Right.
later on. And from the legal point of view, I believe Shane is now the ECW. He may not be the Eastern Championship Wrestling Champion, but he sure is the uh, Extreme Championship Wrestling Champion.
Yeah, and that's like after Dennis Corluzzo, it cuts to Gordon, who said, like I believe he says, as of today, I have folded NWA Eastern Championship Wrestling, and he has opened Extreme Championship Wrestling.
Yeah,
So that just, yeah, like what you just said. So Gordon confirms that on the show, so people kind of understand, this is a rebranding. We're cutting ties. This is a new thing.
looking back at like this compared to Montreal, do you think this did anything for Shane's career?
Um, yeah, I do. I think because of the rebranding and where ECW was going, I think that kind of made him like a hero to that audience. Where it's like, because that's the thing about ECW is we're different.
It's not
Fuck,
for everybody.
fuck tradition, fuck the cartoon characters that you're seeing on the other two shows. We're different. We're extreme. And so that kind of rebellious, you know, thing like that. Douglas, I think, really cemented himself as the
The
franchise
franchise.
here. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I think it certainly helped him, at least in ECW.
So the triple threat, him, Bam Bam, Francine, and
Candido.
Candido, thank you, would be a prominent little group in there.
Yeah.
I know that you're a lot more familiar with the ECW catalog than I am, but I was trying to think if this really did uh, carry on going forward. Like I know, you said it's significant for his career, but I don't remember them talking about this a whole lot. Like after a couple years.
I mean, it was something that was kind of mentioned like on documentaries or things like that. It's kind of like, because it was a significant moment. But because I don't remember exactly when Shane went to WWF, but I think it was like a year or so after this.
Yeah,
'Cause wasn't it like 95 Dean
yeah. It was when Shawn Michaels got got
got
beat
beat
up.
up by 247 Marines?
Yeah, and that's why I was curious as to what you think about like what this would do for Shane's career because he would go with a laughable gimmick in WWF, but then come back and do really well. Like the
Yeah,
triple threat and everything. He
yeah.
was great, but it's
I
just
mean, this might have been a red flag for other promoters outside of ECW, or maybe they didn't care. I don't really know. I know it would certainly endear him to the ECW audience, but I don't know if you're another company,
yeah,
if it would be like, oh, I don't know if I want to hire this guy because he did this, But again, he was doing what he was asked to do. So I mean,
yeah,
I don't know if it affected his perception elsewhere in the wrestling business. I mean, he worked in WCW later on. He worked in WWE later on. So I mean, he was hireable, I guess.
yeah, yeah. So let me see. I'm trying to figure out when. I think Sean forfeited the title, and it looks like towards the end of '95, and so a little over a year later. And when nobody talks about the Shane Douglas incident the way they do Montreal, it's significant, but it doesn't. I don't think that it really defines him. And again, I'm not, too overly familiar with his career any more than I think you would be. But for such a maybe if the internet and YouTube were around, it would have been a much bigger deal.
I think it was a big deal for that audience. I don't know if it's something that, because the NWA was what it was in that era. It wasn't what it used to be.
Yeah,
So if you're WCW or WWF, you probably don't care about this. But for that ECW audience, I think it's probably important to them because that was the catalyst to go extreme
yeah.
officially.
And it's not like the NWA was back in its heyday.
Right.
The NWA title had been vacant for uh, quite a while, which is why they needed the tournament. Um,
Well, that's right. Like that line that Shane says about he doesn't want to be handed a title down from an organization that died 7 years ago. It's like, ooh, that was harsh. Like, true,
and
but harsh.
yeah, yeah, and so that's the thing. It probably would have been a lot different, maybe like a decade earlier. You know,
Oh yeah,
probably would have been shot in the parking lot. But um, yeah, like I said, the thing that sticks out the most is that after this, he becomes Dean Douglas. After,
yeah. It wasn't that long after this that he left. So,
yeah,
um,
it's definitely significant. Probably more so than is like covered and reflected on. But because ECW is long gone, and actually so are most of the people in this tournament too. But I don't know. This, like you said, this is the catalyst for going extreme.
yeah, and I don't on the TV the episode of the TV show. There's I don't know if it was on the thing you watched, but after Todd Gordon, they show Public Enemy. Did you see this?
Yeah, they were spray
And
painting.
yeah, there's a big banner, Eastern Championship Wrestling, and they spray paint out Eastern and write Extreme underneath it, which takes forever, but it is on a black background, so
Yeah,
um, I can't blame those guys for that. But I thought that was just kind of like a nice symbolism there.
that's like the original. Um, you know how people sit to the end of superhero movies to see if there's like a bonus.
Yeah.
This is even like the way they kind of snuck on, like almost like one of
Yep.
the Deadpool, uh, like post scene credits. Um, I kind of got a kick out of that.
And that's the having Public Enemy do it because they were, as much as I think they didn't deliver that much in the ring, they were very important. They were some of the original guys doing that extreme style. So having those guys be the one to paint an extreme on the banner,
It was
I think
appropriate.
is significant. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool. All right. Match of the night between the two events. I know this is a little bit of a different format.
Yeah. I got to go with Tommy and Sandman. The match itself, it was a better match. Um, and again, there was a lot of significance to that as well because it was kind of when Tommy became a made man.
Yeah.
And it was just, Sandman was great, Tommy was great, Woman was great. Um, the really cool finish. So I got to go with Tommy and Sandman.
What about moment of the night between either show?
Um, I mean, Tommy getting caned is certainly up there. Um, as well as obviously Douglas's promo post match. I mean, I think I got to go with Douglas's promo that he
Yeah.
cuts after winning the title.
I think if I think because it was so good that it should be included here too, where Paul Lee says, "Don't let him see the table."
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm going to carry that one over to here now. Yeah, it is
And
interesting,
then
and
the
again,
raining chairs moment too is just really cool. Just
yes,
visually, you know, it didn't have the longevity of Tommy Dreamer changing his character forever, or
but it is an iconic shot.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean that is the Hogan slamming Andre of ECW.
yeah,
It was very cool. Any
yeah.
closing thoughts now that we're breaking into the very early stages of ECW in the mid '90s?
I mean, just that I've looked up some of the stuff that's to come in ECW, and I'm excited for it. Just like I am with some of the stuff we're going to cover in WWF. Like just knowing what's to come, it's like these are going to be some fun shows to cover. Um,
And because the beginning of all this, where we had kind of drawn out like a map of all the significant events um, for the beginning of the WWF, uh, all of the different people that I think we both have been able to see in a little bit of a more appreciative way that we never really gave credit to. I'm wondering if I'm going to have that same experience with some of the ECW shows as well.
yeah, that's probably. I think we probably both will.
Yeah.
Or maybe like a little Guido or something like that. But
But that's the thing. That's what ECW was known for. Aldo Montoya became just incredible. Dean
yeah,
Douglas became the franchise, and kind of in a roundabout way. And so, all the people that I do remember watching, it was already with a new appreciation for their talent and their ability. I'm really excited to go back and just rewatch a lot of RVD matches.
yeah. Well, it's funny because like you talking about like with ECW, where it's like you look the match we covered earlier with Mikey Whipwreck.
Yeah.
If Mikey was in WWE, they wouldn't even let him in the building. And under Paul, look at the reaction he got. Like
They
no
might
one
not
was
even
better
let
than.
him put the ring together.
Yeah, he wouldn't even be qualified to do that. But look at how over Paul got him. And no one was better than Paul.
Yeah. All right. Any closing thoughts again?
Nope, just looking forward to what's to come.
All right.